Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Stromberg with the Folston Siefken Law Firm. I serve as chair of the Olathe Chamber's Legislative Committee, and it's my honor today to moderate today's event. On behalf of the Johnson County Public Policy Council, a collaboration of all 10 local chambers, and in particular on behalf of today's host, the Olathe Chamber, I'd like to welcome everyone. Joining me is Kathy Meyer, Democratic candidate for Kansas House District 78, which is roughly east of I-35 and west of Flum and north from 143rd Street to 159th Street. You can read more about her background and experience at our Public Policy Council website, www.votejoco.com. I'll briefly share the format of our interview, which includes a 2-minute opening statement from Kathy, a moderated question and answer period during which she will have 1.5 minutes to respond, followed at the end by a 1-minute closing statement. Today's questions, which focus on business issues, were developed by the Public Policy Council. Kathy, can you provide us with a 2-minute opening statement, letting viewers know more about you and why you are seeking election to this district?
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to the chambers, especially Olathe, for offering this opportunity to inform the voters about my campaign. My name is Kathy Meyer, and I am running for House District 78 to represent the people here in Olathe. I recently retired as an educator, and after 38 years in public education, I have watched much go on with the legislature. And being a product of Olathe schools, growing up on a farm in the southern part of this district, I know the value of hard work. I know the value of listening to all sides. And so after I attended college at Pittsburgh State and then got my master's here at Mid-America Nazarene University, I decided to stay involved in the community. And this is one of the ways that I would like to do that, making sure that we represent the people of Olathe, but also take into consideration the needs of our entire state. I have the last 5 years worked as the leader or president of the local teachers association, and I have learned that you must work collaboratively if you expect anything to get done. So I think we all deserve to be represented by somebody who's accessible and willing to listen to all sides of the issues. So that is why I'm choosing to run for House District 78.
Thank you. Next, we'll proceed with the question and answer portion of this moderation. Now, this is a reminder that you have 1.5 minutes to respond to the question. As a candidate, what are your top 3 policy issues?
Well, as you can imagine, being a former educator, fully funding public education is very important to me. I also know that Medicaid expansion is important to the majority of Kansans, and I believe that we need to do that to make sure that our community and state stays healthy. Especially after COVID, we know that there are many, many people who do not have coverage, and we need to make sure that they have that opportunity to prevent illnesses rather than to deal with critical illnesses later on. Another thing I'm very concerned with is the economy after COVID, and making sure that our tax base is fair and there's transparency within our government.
Thank you. Moving on to the second question, how would you propose to balance the state budget? What specific budget cuts would you support, and what revenue enhancements would you consider, if any?
This is one of those questions that I need a crystal ball really to know. The budget most likely will be impacted due to the coronavirus and the shutting down of some businesses. Our tax base has to stay fair to all. The three-legged stool of the sales tax and property tax and income tax has somewhat become unbalanced. I am not a person that wants to immediately find spots to cut until we've analyzed all of them. I am not opposed to looking at perhaps the various tax brackets. We currently only have 3, and it may be time to go back to how we had it in, I think, 2012. So I am going to say at this point, I don't have specific cuts to suggest, but I do think we have to look at all parts of the budget.
All right, thank you. This sort of dovetails off of those types of questions. What would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
Well, number one, I think that the workforce is changing. One of the things I think we have to do is make sure that within our education system, whether it be higher ed or trade schools or certifications, that we make sure we're matching the needs of the employers to the needs of the people. Therefore, I think the best way to do that is to make sure we're offering good educational opportunities and possibilities for entrepreneurs to step up and maybe create new businesses for us in this state.
Thank you. The next question is, what are your views on funding K through 12 education?
Well, I kind of mentioned a bit ago that education is very important to me. This is one of the things in our state constitution that must be handled, and that is funding of public education. I know that there have been many court cases in the past few years trying to deal with this particular issue. Public education is the bedrock to our communities. It's the foundation of our society, and we must take care of that if we expect to expand businesses or any of the other things that we've been talking about within the budget. I truly, well, I know from the last budget that was passed that our current funding in schools is just now barely above the 2008 level. It goes to show that we have not kept up with inflation, and funding of our schools is extremely important to me. And by schools, I'm talking public schools. I believe public dollars need to be spent on the public need.
Okay, thank you. Now, you've touched on this a little bit in one of your prior answers, but what are your views on state tax policy, being as specific as you can?
Well, everyone that I've been visiting with informs me that taxes are a problem to them. Some people, it's due to the fact they have limited income, and perhaps it's the food sales tax that's crushing their budgets. That three-legged stool I mentioned earlier is extremely important, because if we get out of balance, of course, the stool's going to fall over. But we have to review those income tax brackets, and we have to make sure that all of the state tax policy is fair and equitable to people.
Okay, thank you. And this is also similar to some earlier questions, but what types of economic development policies will you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
Well, you know, I've heard a lot about the STAR bonds and the different tax incentives we've offered in Kansas. I think that we have to be very careful with those, but they have helped develop some businesses and create new ones that do support our economic development. Finding a stable state government that will make people want to come to Kansas and perhaps begin a new venture is very important to future planning. But we can't do it in a haphazard manner. It needs to be structurally sound and available to the majority. Thank
you. Now, you had talked earlier about supporting Medicaid expansion. What are your overall views on healthcare policy?
Another concern that I hear voiced many times when I'm talking to voters is the cost associated with healthcare coverage. You know, those that are lucky enough to have it provided by their employer feel very lucky. Some people are partially given that opportunity from their employer, and some have to figure it out on their own. What I hope to do, if we could get Medicaid expanded here in Kansas, is to help everyone understand that the money we've been leaving on the tables or providing to other states is our tax money going elsewhere. If we could expand that so that we could help people prevent health concerns and not maybe use the critical care as the way to handle their concerns, I think we'll be better off. The research I have done shows that most states that have expanded it, it either pays for itself or is fully funded within 2 to 3 years. So this is not an unreasonable way to help over 150,000 who have fallen through the cracks.
Thank you. For today's final question, what do you believe most distinguishes you from your opponent in this race?
One of the things that I find interesting when I'm talking to people is some of them say, well, I've never heard from a candidate directly before. So whether it be on the phone or when I'm maybe giving literature on their doors and they run out and want to talk to me in the street, socially distanced, of course, I am a person who will listen to people. I love to interact and visit and find out what sides of the issue I forgot to look at. I think that is one of the strengths I bring to this campaign. Therefore, I can make informed decisions that really do represent the people of this district, and therefore help all Kansans in the long run so that we can become that shining star of a state that we need to be.
All right, thank you. Now, to close out the interview, you're going to have a 1 minute time limit to give your closing statements to the viewers.
Okay, thank you, Matt. The opportunity I have in running for this position is something that I do not take lightly. I have visited with many voters, and I have found that they are ready for a change. I think I, Kathy Meyer, am the one who can make the difference here and help those that are unaware of the issues affecting them in Kansas become more informed. Transparency has always been my motto, and I want to make sure that I represent the people and their needs so that all Kansans can benefit from changes in policy that help all of us, not just some of us. I have worked very hard in negotiating contracts, in finding collaborative ways to address issues that are tough. And I believe that I can be a person that will listen to everyone and represent them in the best way possible. I am more than happy to let people have my phone number, get a hold of me, and answer their questions as possible. So thank you for the time. I really appreciate the opportunity to visit with folks in this manner, since COVID has limited our opportunities to visit in person. And I appreciate if you would consider voting for me, Kathy Meyer, for House District 78.
Thank you, Kathy. That concludes our candidate interview for House District 78, featuring Kathy Meyer, Democratic candidate. On behalf of the Olathe Chambers of Commerce and the entire Johnson County Public Policy Council, thank you for participating in today's program and providing voters with an important opportunity to hear from you. This candidate interview has been recorded and will be posted on the Public Policy Council's nonpartisan voter website, www.votejoco.com, where you can find more information about the candidates, videos of other candidate forums and interviews, and advanced voting details With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Matt.